So we talked a little bit about why some of you are here, but you might be wondering if you belong here, if you belong here tonight. And you belong here if you want to level up. You belong here if you're not sure it's possible. You belong here if you're maybe just a little bit curious. And you belong here if you have even a glimmer of hope and a possibility for a better tomorrow. So for tonight, you can consider me your sobriety guru, your tiny habits hacker, your self-love mentor, and of course, Louise Barnett. So before we dive into a lot of the content tonight, which I have outlined here for you today, so we're jam-packed full. I tend to talk fast, so you'll have to forgive me. You will all get the replay so you can watch it again. But before we dive in, I really want to get our minds primed for today. I really want you to get in the right frame of mind for what you're really trying to achieve. So everybody find that piece of paper. If you can find an actual piece of paper, that's going to be best. If not, no worries, you can just improvise. But go ahead and find an actual piece of paper. And I want you to just take a quick moment to write down the biggest goal that you are working on right now. So, you know, the one that's like on the top of the mountain, it's the marathon, it's the one that's going to bring you freedom, the penultimate. Maybe it's a career goal, maybe it's related to your sobriety, maybe it's a relationship goal or a health goal. There's literally nothing that is too big here, and just go ahead and jot it down. So for the sake of time, we're going to keep moving on here, but hopefully you've jotted down just a couple of words, maybe a sentence about literally the biggest thing that you are working on right now in your life for yourself. And I already did mine before today's session, so I have mine here to show you. And now I'm going to get ready to share a story with you, but before I do that, I'd like us all together as a group to take the following 5 steps together. So are you ready? Yes, yes. Give me a yes, give me a hell yes. Do you trust me? I'm going to do it with you, okay? So here are the 5 steps. First, just wave your paper in front of the camera. Wave it so we can see that you wrote your goal, you did the work, you did your homework, okay? Yep, I see a lot of stuff waving in front of my computer screen. All right, take the goal, now just fold it in half. Horizontal, vertical, it doesn't matter. Just go ahead and just give it one fold in half. Okay, everybody should be folded. Okay, we're on step 3 now. We're gonna fold it in half again. This is very important. Fold it in half again. Vertical, horizontal, doesn't matter. Just make sure, very important that you're folding it in half again. Okay, very, very important. We're on step 4 now of 5. Just one more time. If mine's tiny, but I'm going to fold it one more time. I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it. This is very important. Okay. So everybody should have a small little square or rectangle in front of them. Step 5, tear it up. Tear up the goal and throw it away. We don't need that right now. I'll explain myself later. But first, let me begin with my story. I used to scoff at those who achieved success. I laughed and mocked the picket fence families and never understood how they did it. And I was admittedly jealous. For me, I always took the long way around. Most of my teenage years, I battled severe depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicidal ideation, and eating disorders. Each year of that decade, I loved myself less and less and less. In my 20s, I danced carelessly through my bachelor's degree, accepting the job title of waitress upon graduation. I lost track of the number of sunrises and strangers' beds I stumbled into for years. I bounced around jobs several times, usually blaming somebody else for the move, and somehow miraculously survived an MBA program and graduated from that in 2012 with a piece of paper and no vision for my future. In 2012, I made the impulsive decision to escape from my hometown, Providence, Rhode Island, to Annapolis, Maryland, where I kept up my lifestyle of sunrises and strange beds, which brings us to the evening of December 21st, 2012. There was a power outage in Annapolis that night. The moon was full, and I sat alone on the empty floor of my brand new apartment. The room echoed, and I stared blankly out the window. My palms were sweaty, my breath was heavy, and tears streamed down my face as I looked down at two blue lines on a blue stick. I was single and pregnant. At 30, I rock bottomed and was finally, but fortunately, diagnosed with bipolar and borderline personality disorder. And in many ways, this was the day my journey began. This was the day I started questioning everything. This was the day I unknowingly discovered just a glimmer of hope and a small piece of my why. You see, my journey didn't start with a goal. My journey didn't start with a destination. It didn't start with a desire to get sober, a career aspiration, a weight loss goal, the perfect man, or something specific. It started with a feeling. My journey started with a deep desire for something more. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted or where I was going, but I knew that I felt empty, lost, alone, scared, and broken. I knew I wanted more, and I was finally ready to do the work. I wasn't even exactly sure what that work was or what it would look like or how I was even supposed to begin, but it didn't really matter. I just began. My journey started setting my alarm clock back by 5 minutes earlier than it was the night before. It didn't start taking a giant leap or making a huge commitment or understanding and defining each molecule of that big goal. I just started. And 5 minutes turned to 10, turned to 30, turned to 60, and fast forward hundreds of pages of journaling, like hundreds of books, dozens of podcasts, hours of meditation, and the destination manifested itself. Over time, I looked back in the rearview mirror and my entire life had transformed. I'm 40 this year, and I'm sober, mentally at peace, blissfully married, a doting mother, a successful business owner, and financially thriving. It's nothing short of a miracle. Thank you for allowing me to share this piece of my story with you. Storytelling is an often underestimated tool in recovery. And that's exactly why now I want to transition to your story. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I have them on the screen for you too, so you can reference them as you go along. But we really want to dive into the depths of what is holding you back. So hopefully you're in the mindset now of, reflecting on that big goal that you tore up and maybe listening to my pieces of my life. So go ahead and get out your pen, your journal, your notes app, whatever it is that you're using. And I'm going to ask you these series of 4 questions, and they'll be quick. I want you to write down really the first thing that comes to mind. I don't want you to overthink this. And my challenge to you is that you leave your pen on the paper the entire time. You do not take your pen off the paper the entire time. So I want literally a stream of consciousness from your brain, like pouring out onto this paper. So we're going to do this relatively quickly, but I'm just going to play some music in the background so that you can relax and listen to the questions. You can reference them for yourself here. I'll read them out loud as we transition between them, and we will go from there. So the first question I want you to take 60 seconds to answer is, what do you believe is holding you back? What do you believe is holding you back? The second question I'd like you to transition to is, what excuses are you giving yourself not to start? Only you see this. Be honest with yourself. What excuses are you giving yourself not to start? What's another perspective you can take? Look at your first response to the first question of what you believe is holding you back. Is there another perspective that you can look at this? The excuses that you're giving yourself, is there another perspective that you can look from to make it a positive rather than a negative? And finally, these excuses or the reason that you're being held back or why you're being held back, can this actually serve you? If you've successfully looked at this from another perspective, is there something that's happening here that's actually serving you and actually getting you closer to where you want to be? And this one can be really hard. Like, how the hell is me relapsing every 30 days serving me? Find it, dig deep. Go ahead in the chat and share one big takeaway from those journaling. And I know we're moving quickly, but go ahead and just share something that came to you during that journaling exercise that maybe you hadn't thought of before. And Todd, thank you for joining us. We actually just got started. So we're just filling out these journaling questions here, these mind primers to get us ready for the content today. So if you feel comfortable, my fear holds me back. I can do big things. Beautiful. Always the fear. It's never too late to start over, and anything is possible with a clear mind. This just opened my eyes. I'm almost in tears. I'm still stuck emotionally in my abusive ex-marriage. I'm staying at a victim mentality instead of a survivor mentality. Thank you for sharing. That is incredibly powerful. So we've given some thought to what our big goal is, and then we threw it away. And we've given some thought to what's holding us back. So what the hell do we do with all of this? Where do we start? Where do we begin? It's a lot. Does anybody feel overwhelmed by their big goal? Just give me a hell yes or a yes in the chat. When you think of that big goal that you ripped up, was that daunting? Did it give you a pit in your stomach? Did it make your heart race? Hell yes, 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 sure is. Yep, exactly. Yes. So here's the truth about your big goal. Nothing will change if you change nothing. And winners and losers share the same goal. Data from the Recovery Village suggests that alcohol relapse occurs in 33% of recovering alcoholics during their first year of sobriety. 21.4% of recovering alcoholics relapse in their second year. And this is the one that blew my mind. 70% of individuals struggling with alcohol will relapse at some point in their recovery, leaving a mere 30% to never relapse. But then as I'm researching this, as I'm reading this, and I'm thinking about big goals, and I'm thinking about action steps, and it doesn't add up. Like, it doesn't actually make sense, because 100% of these people started with the same goal. 100% of these people had the goal of recovery, of sobriety. So if like, as it's going through my mind, like, if all of these aspiring sober individuals started off with the same goal of sobriety, then the goal can't be the thing that's separating the winners from the losers, and the, successful from the fallen, the champions from the spectators. It has to be something else that's differentiating the two. My resident expert, James Clear, he says it best when he says, achieving a goal only changes your life for a moment. We think we need to change our results, but the results are not the problem. What we really need to change are the systems that cause those results. Let me say that again, because this is really powerful and this will change your life. What we really need to change are the systems that cause those results. So think about a time in your life, it could be the goal that you wrote down, or it could be something in the past that you set a goal for yourself. It was maybe finance related, fitness related, nutrition, sobriety, maybe a career goal, education, relationship, etc. Just think of a goal that you set, small, big, doesn't matter, that you set for yourself. And when it came to achieving it, this goal, I'm guessing that there were times that you felt that the rate of change and how quickly you were getting to that goal was, quite frankly, downright disheartening. Like, maybe it took you forever, or maybe you just gave up. So I didn't get my six-pack doing just one push-up, right? Just kidding. I don't actually have a six-pack, but that's like actually exactly my point, right? So what if we just stop focusing on the goal? And I know we put a ton of weight on our goals, and especially in sobriety, and especially at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the month, or beginning of the season. Like, how many people, tell me in the chat, how many people have or are considering, sober October, sober September, dry January, any of these markers that are miraculously going to help us find sobriety? How many people have tried these before or are planning on trying them soon? The dry Januaries, the sober Septembers, I think there's one in July, right? I'm not exactly telling you to burn the goal, right? We need the goal of sobriety. We need to create them. I never tried, it never worked. Exactly. I tried the whole 30 for January once. I got 29 out of 30. Exactly. Or what happened on the first of the following month? You got shit-faced. Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad we are all on the same page here. So we need to create them. But what if we just put them on the shelf? And then just hear me out for a minute on this. If we place too much focus and emphasis on our goals, we forget to take the first step. We fail to focus on what is actually important and what is effectively going to get us to our goals. So call me controversial, but there are 4 problems we face if we focus too much on the end goal. And in many of our cases here tonight, the goal is sobriety. So here's my breakdown for you. Everybody is welcome to this session today. There are aspects of this presentation that apply to your personal development or your sobriety. So I just had a private question asking, who should be here? And I just want to address that this content, while I am directing it towards sobriety, is actually content that applies to life. So this can apply to all aspects of your life. So great question. Thank you for asking. The first problem with your goal is that a goal limits your happiness. If we place too much weight on the end goal, we forget that the journey itself of achieving that goal is an incredible source of joy and learning in and of itself. This is the Super Bowl effect. So you'll hear a lot of these professional athletes who literally spend half the year, right? Tom Brady, Shelly, don't get mad at me. Tom Brady spends all this time trying to win the Super Bowl, right? That's the end goal. And the end goal happens, it's achieved. And then what happens? They're deflated because they forgot to enjoy the journey and they forgot to enjoy the learning along the way. Number 2, winners and losers have the same goal. Only 30% of sobriety seekers reach sobriety without relapse. We just learned that. So if all aspiring individuals have the same goal, what gives? It's very simple. The 30% who achieved the goal are the ones who had their systems in place. They focused on the process. The 70% were too focused on the goal. Number 3, achieving a goal is temporary. I might rid the house of booze for all of dry January, for example, and achieve it with flying colors, like all 31 days. But in those 31 days, I didn't actually do anything to change my process or my systems. So therefore, achieving the goal is temporary, and February 1st comes around, ouch, right back to my habits. We talked about that one too. Number 4, goals don't support long-term growth. When we achieve goals, we generally ditch the habit that got us there. We ditch the habit through the process, not by achieving the goal. It's the process that allows us to ditch the bad habits. So remember dry January, sober October, we keep using this example. It doesn't work. Actually, let me rephrase that. I'm going to take that back. It does work. It works for 30 days. That's it. Sometimes we need to forget the goal and first focus on awareness and second focus on tiny habits. They will build up over time and they will be a force to be reckoned with in our personal and professional growth. So I want to share a quick story with you about a client of mine. Samantha's story is beautiful. She came to me with a desire to change a lot of aspects of her life. And she admittedly, literally had no idea how to start. So she had a weight loss goal, a health goal, a significant weight loss goal, I should say. She wanted to improve her relationship with her partner and her children and her stepchildren. And she wanted to get sober. And so through working together and diving into self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and tiny habits, Samantha was able to, for the first time ever, discover her real why, right? And we hear this a lot in culture today, like, what is your why? What is your why? She discovered her real why, meaning that she used the 7 levels deep method to go so deep to uncover things about herself that she never knew existed. And I will never forget the experience that she had in that session. It was such a beautiful proclamation of extending her legacy to her family. And within a matter of weeks of her truly uncovering the real why, she was already taking action. She was shedding pounds. And by the time our time came to a close, her sobriety was effortless. Whereas, like so many of us, we fought for years and years and years. And her relationships were starting to thrive again and heal. And these are the transformations. These are the discoveries, the self-discoveries of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that I feel so grateful to be able to be part of that experience with individuals. And you can see what she's sharing about her experience. And it's mind-blowing to me. This was a group session, and she shared her discovery of her 7 levels deep, and literally everybody was in tears. It was just one of those moments I will never, ever forget. So, but don't worry, in this session, we'll be teaching you everything you need to know about conquering these beliefs and moving past them, because really that is right now the blockage. And that's what is currently sabotaging you from taking action. And then ultimately, yes, achieving that big goal through the processes. So before we kind of shift gears towards our limiting beliefs, we're just going to play a little game, very quick one. It's called 2 Lies and a Truth rather than 2 Truths and a Lie, if you know that. So I'm going to read you 3 statements: statement A, statement B, and statement C. And in the chat, I want you to vote on which one you believe to be the truth, the true statement. So the first statement is, you will never be able to do that. Statement A is, you will never be able to do that. Statement B is, you can be anything you want. And statement C is, you can be everything you are. So A, you'll never be able to do that. B, you can be anything you want. C, you can be everything you are. We've got unanimous votes for C, you can be everything you are, which is correct. And what Jay Shetty is trying to say here is, as young children, we hear constantly that, you can be anything you want, right? I'm sure I'm guilty of telling my daughter that she can be anything she wants, but she can't. She can be everything that she is. It has to come. It has to come from within. So don't dismiss or hide what makes you uniquely you. Embrace it. Let it give you power, not take power away from you. I'm loud, I'm creative, I'm opinionated, I can be bossy. And I could allow all of these things to bring me down. I could allow my story to bring me down. I have a lot of shameful stories that bring a lot of guilt. I could allow those to bring me down, but I don't. I choose to tell my story, and I choose to allow these traits to empower me so that I can't be anything I want. Our parents were lying to us, but I can be everything that I am. So look at everything that you are right now. And again, I asked you earlier today, can you look at this from another perspective? How is this serving you? So for every single one of those so-called negative traits that you are telling yourself every day when you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror, find another perspective and find a way that those traits are actually serving you, because I promise you that they are. And then you can be everything that you are. So with that, let's dive into what we believe is taking away our power and sabotaging our recovery. Limiting beliefs. So what the heck is a limiting belief? It's funny, I was researching on Google trends, where you type in searches and you see how popular the trends are. limiting beliefs over the past 5 years literally has like an upward straight trajectory. So people are curious about them. People want to know about them. And they're in the hot seat right now. So a limiting belief is a state of mind or belief about yourself that restricts you in some way. These beliefs are often false accusations you make about yourself that can cause a number of negative results. So I wrote just some examples here. Literally, there's no limits to the limiting beliefs, but here are just some examples. I'm not worthy of love. I could never do this. I could never open my own business. I'll never be smart enough for that. No one's ever going to want me because I have a daughter. It's too late to get sober. All of these things. So if you know me at all, and I know some of you do, and I know some of you have had sessions with me, before we dive into how to conquer these beliefs, and before we even attempt to take action, what do we have to do? First, we have to build self-awareness. So we're going to get to work right now. So go ahead and type in the chat, because I'm curious to hear from everybody what you believe your number one limiting belief is. I know I'm not giving you a lot of time to think about this, but what is the number one story that you are telling yourself that is essentially not true and that is holding you back? I am not enough. What other stories that you're telling yourself? My anxiety holds me back from happiness. I can relate to that big time. On the mental health side, anxiety is probably the number one kind of piece that I still struggle with the most. I can't do this, right? Maybe I'm not even capable, right? I'm too old and in too much debt to make my dreams come true. Yeah, like why even bother now? I'm never gonna pay off that debt. So what's the point? The what ifs, I love that. I'm too old. I ran out of time. What's the point? I don't even know who I am without alcohol. I'm reading this, but yes, like for those of you that can relate, probably more than me, I had a 20-year drinking and drugging career, right? That was part of my identity. Yeah, agreed. Thank you for sharing that. So we have a couple more journaling questions to do around your limiting beliefs. So take the limiting belief that you typed into the chat and just write it at the top of your page, or, almost like it's a title or a header there. And the first question I want you to ask yourself about this limiting belief is, what has it cost you in the past? So we're gonna talk about money now. So the first is, what has it cost you in the past? So if we're taking the example of, the alcohol identity, right? What has that cost you? Or this idea that I'm too old, or I'm just not capable of change. What has this cost you? Maybe you've missed out on so many opportunities because you just never thought you were capable of them. Maybe you just never even tried. And then you want to shift into today, present day. So what is this belief costing you today? Maybe you're relapsing, right? Because you think you're too old and you think you can't do it. What is it costing you today? And then this is the money question. What will it cost you in the future if you choose to continue to believe this? If you choose to continue that you're too old, that you can't do it, that what if, that there's too much debt, that the anxiety is too big, that you're not enough. If you continue to believe those thoughts, what is it going to cost you in the future? I want you to keep writing and exploring this, because this is really great, powerful exercise. And I'm just going to share, a little bit more about my story. I spent 20 years living with my demons, living with my mental health demons, living with my drug addictions, alcohol addictions, disrespecting my body with men, you name it. And I did all of this, putting on a great face, working in corporate America. And, dating one frog after the next, building my career, hotel company, hotel chain after the next. And through all of this, hiding my true self from my leaders at the, corporation, from the men I was dating, hiding everything and putting on a face, right? And so I would lie about the truth about my daughter's birth, how she came into the world, why she came into the world. So many stories I told about that. I told lies about my mental health. So God forbid anybody knew that I suffered from panic attacks, or that I, had manic episodes or depressive episodes, right? And I lied about my addictions. I kept a lot of my addictions hidden behind closed doors for many, many years. And the reason I did this was because I never thought that I would be worthy in anybody else's eyes if I shared the truth. So for me, my limiting belief has always been, I will never be worthy. I'm not worthy enough. And I struggle with that today, even though I'm sober, even though I'm married, all of these things. I struggle because of my past, that I'll never be worthy enough. But I did do something radical that changed the entire trajectory of my life. It changed my life. And at the end of my corporate career, I was a global director of sales for Hilton. And that's when I was working in that role, that's when I found my sobriety. And Hilton's a great company to work for, and they really support mental health, addiction, employees, et cetera, et cetera. And I had kept my sobriety hidden too. So I go from keeping my addictions hidden, and now I'm keeping my sobriety hidden. And one Saturday afternoon, I was by myself at home, I remember, and I just had this overwhelming feeling like I needed to tell my story, like I needed to write my story. And I started writing, and I got on LinkedIn of all places, and just like popped the video thing and popped a video up, and just told my story about becoming sober, and started this conversation about reducing stigmas. And you can see, I mean, within like 24 hours, it had almost 10,000 hits, and the number of comments that were coming in to me overwhelmed me with joy and gratitude, and just brought so many tears of joy and tears of sadness at the same time to my life, because people were reaching out privately telling me that they struggled with the same addictions, and thank you so much for bringing this to the table. And you can just see I'm like throwing comments here of just like the amount of support that was given to me. And meanwhile, this whole time, my whole life, I've been hiding and masking and numbing. And what I needed to do my whole life was to come forward. And from that experience, that is the experience that led me to start working with Jay Shetty Coaching, and to ultimately leave corporate America to serve in my passion and my purpose. And it's all because I told my story to overcome my limiting beliefs. So tell your story, write your story, remember the struggle and challenges and the ickiness and the messiness and the ups and the downs. Highlight them, don't hide them. Read your story to yourself weekly, daily. These stories are your trophies. These stories are not your shame. They need to be displayed, not hidden. Your degree that's hanging on your wall, or the money that you have in the bank right now, they mean absolutely nothing. That's just stuff. There are no bad parts in your life. Your life is perfect. The good, the bad, the ugly, the raw, it's perfect. It's your story and experience that actually matters. It's your story and experience that will give you power. Telling my story literally changed my life. And I've never looked back, not for a second. Hearing other stories is what ultimately got me sober. The power of storytelling is huge. And if you do that in a safe community, the effects are mind-blowing. They really are. So we're going to move on to the meat, right, of what I promised we were going to talk about today, which is how do we get past these beliefs? How do we get past this belief that I'm not worthy, that I'm not enough, that what if I have too much anxiety, I'm too old, I don't have enough money? It's very simple. Write this down. This is your money equation. Action leads to results. Results leads to confidence. Confidence is what destroys limiting beliefs. That is it. As simple as that. We need to learn how to take action so we can achieve results. The results are going to automatically give us confidence. And as we build those confidence coins in the bank, they will destroy our limiting beliefs. So how do we do this? 4 ways that we're going to talk about today to do this. And the first one is like the meatiest, and it's so important. And it's our inner critic. It's the way that we're talking to ourselves. We, without argument, abuse ourselves and talk to ourselves worse than any other person on this earth. We abuse ourselves more than anyone else in our lives. Who woke up this morning and went to the bathroom and looked at yourself in the mirror and said, damn, I look hot today. Look at that ass. You're looking great, girl. Oh. Right? Probably none of us. Probably the majority of us didn't say anything close to that. Probably, if you're anything like me, it was something more like this. It was like, oh my God, you really are turning 40 this year. Like, ooh, your hair's so dry. You look so tired. Oh my God, your stomach. Why the stomach? Just like fix your stomach. It's so gross. It was probably closer to a version of that. So how do we change this? Because most likely, just like our addictions, right? We spent 20, 30, 40 years building our addictions. They don't just get reversed overnight. Neither does our inner critic. So what do we do? How can we expedite that process of changing the way that we talk to ourselves and rewiring our brain? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to audit. So I want you, starting tomorrow, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to audit the way you talk to yourself for a full 24 hours or a full waking day, right? And what that means is I wake up ashamed of myself every morning, Robin. Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I can relate to that. So audit yourself. All I want you to do is just notice every time that you make a negative comment to yourself. You can jot that on a little notebook. You can jot that on the notes app on your phone. You can just take a mental note of it. But for one day, tomorrow, I want you to just notice how you talk to yourself. That's it. Just notice it. Okay. And then tomorrow night, when you head to bed, I want you to take a journal. And if you've already written down some of these negative comments, great. You already have it written down. If you haven't and you've just mentally banked them, go ahead and write them down. Just make a list of all the negative comments that you said to yourself throughout the day. And for each of those negative comments, I need you to write down the opposite. I need you to change your perspective and write down the opposite that you could have said to yourself. Then the next day, on day 2, you're still going to have the negative thoughts, right? Because change doesn't happen overnight. But when you have the negative thought, you already have the positive, the opposite, crafted to yourself. So if I look at myself in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, you look so freaking like old today and ugly, I already have written down the day before, Louise, you have such a natural beauty that you are lucky to have. So I already have that written down. So that's what I'm going to say to myself. I can still have the negative thought, but then I'm going to kind of trump it. I'm going to piggyback it with the positive thought. And I'm going to do that for a day. Okay. On day 3, you're going to still have the negative thought, although maybe you might find yourself defaulting to the positive one. But if you do have the negative thought, you're going to talk back to it. You are going to talk back to your inner critic. You're going to treat your inner critic like it is another human being. My inner critic's name, some of you may know this, is named Roger, because I do not like Aaron Rodgers, especially not after last weekend. And so when I have a negative thought, I tell Roger to fuck off and stop talking like that, because that is me he's talking about. And I am beautiful. And you're going to repeat this process. You're going to rinse and repeat day 1, 2, and 3 over and over and over and over again until you rewire your brain and you replace your inner critic. And this is something that I would dive into pretty intensely in the beginning. And then maybe it becomes, you know, a monthly tool to you. It's something that is always revisited, right? It's not like, you know, it finds ways of creeping back in when those limiting beliefs start creeping back in. So really, really, really powerful exercise to just keep in your life. And it sounds silly and it's a bit awkward. And like, if you have people at home that live with you, they might be like, oh my God, she's going insane. She's like talking to herself, but it's fine. I promise you it's fine. And it's going to rewire how you talk to yourself, and it's going to build confidence, which what does build confidence do? It leads to destroying limiting beliefs. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to start following through. You're going to start signaling your brain that you are somebody that follows through on your word. If you are somebody that follows through on your word, you're going to receive a dopamine release and you're going to build confidence. So you get the double whammy, right? You get the dopamine, the natural dopamine high, and you're building confidence. What do I mean by following through? What does that mean? I want you to start small. Think to yourself and have the mantra in your mind: the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So when you get home from work and you're changing clothes and you throw that blouse on the closet floor or over that chair that only holds dirty clothes in your room, pick it up and hang it up. That is following through. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. You're going to get a dopamine hit and you're going to get a little confidence coin in the bank. If you finish your coffee in the morning and you put your mug in the sink, go back and put it in the dishwasher. If the dishwasher is clean, empty the dishwasher and put the dirty mug in the dishwasher. That is following through. That's a dopamine release to your brain and another confidence coin. It's super easy to retrain your brain. Our brain doesn't know the difference between following through on like a 6-mile run and following through on a 3-minute walk. All it knows is that we followed through. We completed the task and we get the same result. If you need help following through, use the 5-second rule. I attribute this to Mel Robbins. So you count down from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just fucking do it, right? Sometimes there's just shit in life we don't want to do. Use the 5-second rule. Just count down from 5, get up and do it. You can also use it in reverse. If you're tempted and you're triggered right now to have a glass of wine, count down from 5 and don't do it. That also counts as following through. Another thing you can think of when following through is to consider your future self. So if you're triggered to have the glass of wine, consider the future you, not the you in this moment right now. And finally, Pomodoro technique is one that I'm like super duper passionate about. I talk about it all the time. Set a timer for 20 minutes, single task, the laundry, the dishes, the project that you're doing. And then the timer goes off after 20 minutes, you take a 5-minute break and you rinse and repeat until the task is done. And that helps you. Human beings are not meant to multitask, and we all think that we do and we can, and we can't. So that really forces you to single task. If you want more on Pomodoro, reach out to me because I got a whole bunch more on that. At 10% more, number 3. Again, this is very similar to following through. We're sending signals. We want to send signals to our brain. We want to trick our brain that we're the type of person that goes the extra mile. We don't just complete things, we actually go the extra mile. So what does that mean? Like, that sounds like a lot of work. It's not really. So if you were going to do 10 push-ups this morning, do 11. Our brain doesn't know the difference, but you just gained a dopamine hit and you just told your brain that you're the type of person that goes the extra mile. If you had a goal of reading, 10 minutes, read 11 minutes, same thing. If you were going to give a donation of $10, give a donation of $11. You'll notice these are like literally itty bitty. Like, nobody here is saying run a marathon. Nobody here is saying quit tomorrow. We're not even talking about alcohol intentionally. First, we're working on our brain. We're working on rewiring our brain so that we are a confident person who gets results, who takes action, and no longer has limiting beliefs. The 4th is get outside your comfort zone. Getting outside our comfort zone, by definition, boosts self-confidence. We're accomplishing something that we wouldn't normally do by going outside of our comfort zone. And so we are, again, training our brains that we can do hard things. How can you do this? You don't have to jump out of an airplane. You don't have to go sing on a stage. How about you drive a different route to work, or a different route to the grocery store? Or maybe when you go to the store, you just for fun, pick the farthest parking spot, from the store. You'll get the extra steps in, and it's just kind of weird and outside of your comfort zone. Raise your hand for new projects or committee at work, maybe that you wouldn't have before. Start a conversation with a stranger, just in the grocery store. Maybe you're waiting to check out, just say hi, start a conversation. We never do that. I'm just staring at my phone 24/7, right? Put it down and start a conversation. See what it feels like, see what comes of it. Sign up for something outside of work. I just signed up for Pilates this week. Super outside my comfort zone. I've done 2 classes so far, but I'm kind of digging it. And every time I finish, I'm like, hell yeah, I did that. And I am getting confidence coins. Reach out to a stranger that you look up to and send them a kind message of gratitude. I do this all the time on Facebook. I'm sure some of you are recipients of it. Hey, I'm sending you lots of love, sending you big hugs, sending you gratitude. So powerful. So powerful. Sing out loud when you're walking in public. That's super outside comfort zone, right? Or maybe you just want to try it, a new dish or a new recipe. Maybe you're just in a rut with your meals, and you have pasta on Mondays and pizza on Tuesdays, and mix it up, try something new. Maybe you go to the same restaurant every Friday night like my family does. Mix it up. Let's go to a new restaurant. These are the tiniest things that are going to build confidence coins. And confidence coins do what? Destroy limiting beliefs. So action leads to results. The action that we can take is changing our inner critic, following through 10% more, and getting outside of our comfort zone. That's going to lead to results, right? Of the follow through of the action that we took. which is going to build confidence coins, which is going to destroy our limiting beliefs. It's so simple, you guys. We do not have to overcomplicate this. So what does this look like in real life? This looks like Rebecca in real life. If you're part of the Together Sober community, you know Rebecca. And she is such a testament to what doing the work actually looks like. So she says to us, you guys, I did the damn work when I first talked to Louise Barnett, which was almost a year ago. I was so full of self-doubt, and never in a million years did I think I would see this many days sober. But one thing she said to me was, we are all on our own journey. And when I tell you she believed in me, y'all, she believed in me. I'm so damn proud of this number and my sobriety. In 150 days, I've quit my job, left a toxic relationship, I left an emotionally abusive 14-year-long relationship, started a new job, all while staying sober and enjoying my life more than ever. I still have obstacles I'm fighting through every day, but they are so much more achievable sober. We can do this. I'll never forget that first phone call and the obstacles that tried to get in my way that day, and Louise's follow-up calls. The support from you and the belief you had in me was the push I needed. I remember hanging up with you and telling myself my life was going to change. And 150 days seems like a long time, but on day one, it goes by fast. Action causes more action. You don't actually have to believe in yourself. Like, that's the crazy messed up thing about all of this. You don't have to believe in yourself. You just have to take action. You just have to do the damn work. You just have to start. At the beginning of my journey, I didn't have a true definition of my why or my big goal. I told you this. But I knew I was desperately searching for something. And now I know that that's actually all I needed. Every morning I wrote in my journal 3 pieces of gratitude, 3 mission critical items for the day. And I concluded my journal entry by writing the equation I learned from personal development influencer Hal Elrod. Unwavering faith plus extraordinary effort equals miracles. Over time, without even trying, my goal became clearer and clearer, and my equation read like this. I will have unwavering faith that I will become sober in order to be the best mother, wife, and version of myself that I can be. I will put forth extraordinary effort to do so because there simply is no other option. And I'm here to tell you that my biggest goals have unequivocally moved from the possible to the probable to the inevitable. And daily unwavering faith and extraordinary efforts are undoubtedly the reasons why. I encourage you to write your own equation. Write it down, modify it over time, read it every day, twice a day, 10 times a day, and you will discover that through 1% growth, literally any goal is achievable. Tiny habits make a big difference. It's easy to underestimate what small incremental habits can do. And it all boils down to 1%. Focus on 1% positive change a day, and you'll achieve 37% growth by the end of a full year. It's a fact. The math is wacky. You can check my math. It's true, 37%. Wherever you are on your journey is okay. It's actually better than okay. It's actually perfect. It doesn't have to be linear. It shouldn't be easy. And it doesn't even have to make sense. I spent years after my daughter was born making countless, reckless, impulsive decisions. Every fiber of my being fought for years for what I knew deep down I needed to do, but I had to do it in my own time. Embrace your struggle. That's where your power comes from, remember? Write your story, read your story, lean into your story, and stand up to alcohol.